to Linux Weekly Daily Wednesdays, the weekly Linux news with all that, well, actually without all that annoying accuracy. I'm Ben Stone.
I'm Jordan Spung, or Pedro Mateus.
And that's, Macho, yeah, he's just a piece of bread. Don't expect a whole lot out of him this week. What's been going on? Not Pedro.
Not Pedro? Well, you know, it's been a fun time not being Pedro. I get to wake up in the morning and not be Pedro, and then my life feels good. What about you?
Not a whole lot. I've been trying to find some new metal to listen to, so not having good luck with that. Did watch the Star Treks, but we talked about that before the pre-show. It's definitely a thing. How about we just get right into this business?
All right, sure. It's time for an epic fail. You know, people really should watch that other podcast that we do, because sometimes we talk about security. Sometimes you guys talk about security on this show, but there's a pertinent issue with vBulletin that Epic Games got slapped with, and 800,000 accounts got their details nabbed. Now, this was done via SQL injection attack, which, you know, for any PHP application is par for the course. But the data they got wasn't really anything particularly useful, was it, Ben?
No, nothing really. I mean, all right, maybe they got some email addresses and some birthdays and all that business. So worst case scenario, you might see some very weak sauce phishing attempts, but the passwords were seasoned with the proper ingredients that we do like. J-Man, I mean, isn't this just a case of vBulletin striking again? And last week on Linux Gamecast Weekly, who was it? That key trading site. Yeah,
there's some, I honestly don't remember the name of it off the top of my head, because I would never use something like that. But, yes. This is why you use PHPVP. Well, and make sure that your PHP applications that you run are up to date. How about that?
I absolutely had that moment before when I was typing. I was like, and this is why you need to keep your bulletin board software up. Log into ACP on. It's like, yeah, this is, you know, after it was up to date. That was definitely a thing, but we need to celebrate this.
Celebration! Linux is 25. They can now rent a car. That's astounding.
Wait, is that actually a thing in Space Canada?
Honestly, I don't know. Don't you need to be 25 to rent a car in the US or something?
I believe I've definitely rented motoring vehicles, at least here in the States, before I was 25.
I think it's like an insurance thing, though, because like your insurance rates are like significantly higher if you're under 25 and a driver.
Okay.
But anyways, yeah, oh my god, look at Babby Skinny Linux. This is Linux turns 25, and they give a little breakdown. This article is a little interesting because they're talking about how this started as a community project, and now most of the major contributors are corporate interests. They give a little chart there. Intel is leading, followed by Red Hat, followed by a bevy of others, including SUSE, Linaro, IBM, Texas Instruments, Cisco.
No. I'm looking at this, and they're quantifying this by changes. And down here, 1, 2, 3, 4, let's say, I don't know, but AMD is committed 2,100 quote-unquote changes. Do they have like a secret open source graphics driver division that we don't know about? Or
it's actually not that. It's a lot of work with the Linaro group, specifically for their Seattle-based Opteron systems, because they're trying to get into the hyperscale ARM stuff.
Okay,
and so they've been committing a lot of code for that. And in addition, like if you look at the like what AMD, ARM, Texas Instruments, Oracle, Microsoft, NVIDIA. Is Microsoft on that list?
Hope not. No. Don't see it. All right, good.
No. Yeah, they were pushing a lot for a while when they were trying to get their Hyper-V stuff into the Linux kernel. But a lot of this is hardware manufacturers, and they're just adding, you know, driver support into their kernel, which should be a surprise to no one.
No, and I was half joking when I typed that in the notes, but I was half like, wow, Intel is beating out Red Hat for actually committing to the... but I think you're right. You know, that's supposedly dealing with hardware, right? Yeah.
I would say, like, in terms of open source, like, if we took all the various projects like GNOME and Free Desktop and all that stuff, Red Hat would be near the top of the commits, but absolutely, because Intel has a ton of hardware that they have to support, especially server-grade stuff, it makes sense that they would be throwing shit in the kernel.
Now, is there anyone on this list that you did not expect to see?
Anyone on this list?
I don't know what an outreachy is. I don't know if that counts as someone I didn't expect to see, or none.
Yeah, Vision Engraving Systems. That's an odd one.
Makes you wonder what they really do, but they're super serial this time, man.
Oh, okay. So I've been a diehard Fedora user for coming on 10 years now.
Wait. Haven't you kind of worked with the Fedora project just a little bit?
I actually had a lovely conversation with the guy. Is this who is this again? Yeah, Paul Frields. I had a lovely conversation with him at a FudCon a couple of years back. But this is But yes, I used to do some.
Okay, so he's not the one that you were riding in the free candy van with.
No, that was Spot.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, but this is a ticket on their bug tracker, or at least for their Fesco, which is their users conference, whatever. They want to make Wayland the default for Fedora 25, just like Fedora 24 and 23 and 22. And hey guys, remember when BTRFS became the primary file system for Fedora 15, then 16, and 17? And yeah, okay. So Fedora has a nasty little tendency of saying, yeah, we're going to lead the charge and do this, and then fall back, because they realize that if we make a change like implementing Wayland as our primary graphics stack, a bunch of applications are not going to work that people typically use, and therefore no one will use our product. But Senor Fields does raise a valid point. I think you're going to get into that, though, right?
Well, when he did say that, just reading through this, and I'm going to get the quote right, it's unlikely we can get the level of exposure and testing desired without keeping Wayland as the default, and that is 1001% correct, because you can't. You definitely need to give it a legitimate trial by fire, not people. It's like, oh, well, I'm going to play with it and I'm tinker with it, because you definitely, absolutely need to solve this issue of chicken and the egg with, we need Wayland drivers, and like, well, somebody needs to launch Wayland. No, Hannah Montana Linux doesn't count. Which technically,
well, so I mean, NVIDIA in their proprietary drivers have had EGL support for a few months now, but they don't play nice with the GNOME implementation of Wayland or the KDE implementation. So, I mean, they're gonna if they're gonna go through with this, they better.
Are you serious about that? When you like, if they don't get this, all right, let's just start here. Out of the box, do you think there's a chance of any of it working right, or is it going to be everything's fine, dog cartoon sitting there having his tea?
I think they're going to realize very, very close to the release, or before they start doing their cutoffs, that we don't have anything in a state ready for general use. Because like you're number one, you're gonna need your DEs.
Okay, this is what I'm saying. It is not ready for, but how can you really get it ready for use? Do you throw it out there and say, deal with it?
No. I agree with it. But there are. It's not just let's throw it out there. There are a number of smaller steps that you need to walk up in order to get to the top of that stair metaphor.
Well, that raises another question. After so many years and so many promises of the project shipping this, maybe they don't know how to do Babby steps.
Maybe. Well, I mean, given Fedora's accelerated release cycle of every 6 months, it's kind of difficult. Your baby step is the distribution for that point in time. And if people are stuck with that for 6 months of an unusable graphics stack, they're going to be quite really pissed off, right?
So is that what you're really worried about? Is what you have here in the notes about X-Wayland?
Yeah, X-Wayland, the X2 Wayland compatibility layer. If they don't have that shit spot on, because there's still quite a bit of overhead, you're going to get some performance decrease in a lot of X apps running through Wayland. Otherwise, the first step is just going to be DNF remove Wayland, DNF install Xorg asterisk. That's really what's going to happen. People need their desktop to do work, like produce the show, for instance, or play video.
The show, and I know that. Yeah, I was like, give me the Waylands, and it's going to be awesome. But then there's also in the back of my brain screaming, it was like, man, you're going to have to make a lot of changes to a lot of stuff. And I'm like, yeah, but I can keep
especially because the Wayland security model is entirely different from X.
And we haven't even gotten into the gaming aspect of this. That's
that was more to what my X-Wayland point was about. But, supporting a piece of software is a difficult thing, and supporting a podcast is marginally easier, wouldn't you say?
Are you saying we need to read a commercial?
No, we don't, because we have this wonderful little service that we're a part of called Patreon that enables us to be directly funded by y'all. And therefore, we don't have to read ads. We just have to pimp our wares in the middle of every single show. And yeah.
Patreon is like patreon.com/?
Patreon.com/Linux Gamecast.
Oh, okay. All right. I found it. We have 91 beautiful people supporting this and another show we do, I think. Don't we do another show? I keep forgetting.
I don't know. I tend to black out on Saturdays and then come to about Tuesdays.
Definitely remember.
So and anything in that point is just crapshoot.
Okay, all right. Right.
But yeah, I don't think we have any fancy new donors to bring up this week. But it keeps us honest. It's value for value. You get, if we provide something that you find entertaining, maybe give us a little help delivering it, because this shit ain't cheap.
Hey man, we do love it. And if you're wondering about Pedro, I mean, yeah. He got kidnapped. And,
yes, he got kidnapped and taken to the other Mexico, not the one in Europe, the one in South America.
The good one. Okay, that's enough of that. But seriously, if you got a few shekels kicking around and you like what we do and we make you laugh, we want to get that number up to like 100 Patreons.
That would be nice. Nice round number.
Nice round number, kind of scared me. I was like, oh yeah. And you're going to get some cool stuff. There's some Patreon
there's a lot of videos,
there's like 80 something videos. Nothing's behind a paywall. Don't worry about that. If you can't, just share the show, something, whatever. If you like it, do it. Okay, that's enough. I'm getting ill with
enough shilling, right?
Yeah. Okay, Alex D. I had to. It's like so. This is like VMware without the VMware.
Oh, it's more like CH Roots on steroids. This is the Linux container project. It's, if you've ever used Solaris and you've used Solaris Zones.
Never heard of it.
Oh, really, mister? I run UltraSparks 2s and I have Aurora Linux running on my fucking 20-year-old oh, no swearing, right. Sorry about that, guys. Anyways, Linux containers are a type of virtualization anyways that allow you to essentially change the namespace of the application that you're running. So you can sort of partition out your Linux system and share resources in a slightly easier to use and easier to grok way compared to virtualization. There are pros and cons to either method. You lose a lot of the flexibility because you can't emulate other operating systems. You have to use Linux or Unix based ones for the most part. But still, they have a new version out, release number 21. They've added a few usability aspects, like the command can now copy, remove, all sorts of stuff, like basic Unix shell utilities with the containers, so you can manipulate them in a way that makes sense. And that's really it. There's performance and security patches. You can read through all the notes. This is all listed in our show notes.
I don't know, man. Ultimately, at the end of the day, I understand that this is actually going to run on the hardware itself, and it's not going to be virtualized. If I'm looking at, like, thinking about deploying something like this, because I know as soon as I got to this, like, I was going to launch, it's a CH root and that fun stuff. And I was like, how do I get out of here? That was my immediate first thought. I was like,
Well, and that's sort of the main security concern with any virtualization technology, right? Mm-hmm. How do I stop you from getting outside of this little container that I have set up that's running my application or whatever? And there's a lot of work going into the security of it. They leverage some stuff, I believe, in systemd as well to help with that. But yeah, no, that's out if that's your bag.
So that's linuxcontainers.org. You can find all that business in our show notes along with everything else. But one thing that keeps this show running is Google. More importantly, Google Docs. You never really think about it, but if Google Docs blinked before a show, Jordan and Pedro would be SOL. Because I make sure, I know my fate. I always back things. But
yes, this is a lovely article from the folks at OCS Magazine. They're talking about Open 365. It is a alternative to the LibreOffice Cloud, Office 365, Google Docs, cloud-based office productivity suite. And this article is actually a review of it. They provide a link to the software. It provides...
This is a very rose-colored, happy, shiny, let's go play hacky sack review of it, in my not-so-humble opinion.
Yeah, I mean, like, the high points are that it has slightly better Microsoft Office compatibility than say LibreOffice, which, I mean, that's a chicken and egg thing, because every time you fix Office compatibility, Microsoft releases a patch to break it, so that you have to continue purchasing Microsoft Office licenses. But this has a browser-based client and a desktop client for offline editing. Ven, you have you compared this to an interesting bit of technology that maybe doesn't see a lot of use, didn't you?
Well, I definitely looked at this, and you go to the website, you set up an account, which is like, okay, fair enough, because I was doing a direct comparison to Google, and it's like, but Google's not open source. And I was like, how many open source only games do you play? Well, that's different, and the only reason that's different is because that's where you put the line in the sand. Right. So, I used Google Docs, and I want to see how this compares against Google Docs. I also compared it against just LibreOffice Writer. That's mainly what I use. After you create your account, you get told, hey, we need you to install this thing here. No realize, like, you don't need to install this, but... Yeah.
Actually, this guy goes into depth about the dependency hell that this package brings, because apparently there's a bunch of like misnamed libraries and all sorts of weird dependency issues that pop up. I didn't have to get that far.
When I saw the maintainer name missing and address malformed, I know that's not going to hurt anything, but I was like, I'm not going to install anything from a company that kind of borks those two things. Am I being a little too...
No, I mean, like, having been a packager for a number of years, I can tell you, make sure that your package is actually installed before you put them on the internet. That's kind of step zero.
So if you're watching the video version, there's a little spinning wheel. Get used to it. I've named mine Fred because you will be seeing that for an inordinate amount of time. So I was able, like I said...
I would have called it Willie the Wheel.
Okay, Wilson. How about Wheelson?
Wilson! Let him split, dumbass.
It's kind of brilliant. Because it just sits there and spins. If you're really lucky, it might load in 15 to 30 seconds. If not, go make some tea and come back. Yes, we know this isn't beta, but I'm just telling you how it really worked on this tiny little system of business. The interface, I basically want to say, imagine using X11 forwarding to load and use LibreOffice.
Yeah,
over dial-up. That is, you really, get that feeling. What were we saying then?
Oh, no, I was agreeing with you. Yeah, it looks like a straight up, someone took the GUI from OpenOffice and this is not like tunneled through anything. This is a straight up web application, correct?
Mm-hmm.
That is the
didn't get that far
question.
Because for me this is a legitimate usability of how this went, because it's like, okay,
and if
I can live with this, just here, go ahead, get it out of your system. I'll try to.
I was gonna say, if it's gonna take you 30 seconds to load a word processor and do like advanced formatting stuff, you're not gonna have a good time. You're not gonna use that bit of software.
No. Again, it's in beta, but right now it is a genuinely miserable experience. Like, what are you running on? Octo-core CPU with a 980 NVIDIA. Probably going to be able to swing this.
It's all JavaScript. It's all single-threaded, bruh.
True, bruh. I gave it a try. I said, okay, from Google Docs, can I take my Google Docs, the show notes for this show, right here, nothing complex, color codes and bulletin points. That's genuinely the extent of it. Copied it over, flat text it. Couldn't maintain formatting. I was like, yeah, that's odd. Let me get this one out, okay?
Sure.
All right.
Go for it.
Okay. So, I tried Google Docs, and see, I normally copy Google Docs into LibreOffice, because guess what? LibreOffice maintains formatting. I copied that over, and I was like, well, maybe if I copy it from LibreOffice into Office 365, nope, just flat text again. And right there, right at that moment, I said, I really don't care what additional features this is. Like, we even have Gypsy built in. And I was like, remember Netscape Communicator and how horrible idea that was? Yeah, quit doing that. However, on the bright side, this does offer you 20 gigabytes of storage that could totally disappear at any time.
Yeah, this might be useful for people who want to deploy their own Office suite if they like provide like a straight up package for hosting your own. I can see a use case for that.
It's a good project, but right now it's not usable.
No, it's not. But, speaking of usability, there's one company that is the bastion of software usability, and that is our good pals at Microsoft. And they've gone and they've open sourced a component that you might be interested in. It's called PowerShell. What is it? Never heard of it? It's someone tried to make Bash for Windows and came up with this. But yeah, they've open sourced it as Windows management scripting language. It has configuration management aspects via desired state configuration. It has a lot of hooks for various Windows services like Exchange and System Center configuration or System Center operations. And it is available on Linux, making use of the open source .NET Core.
We got to remember, I mean, it's Microsoft. Hey, guys, if we open source enough things, everyone will love us again, and they're going to come back to Windows, right? Right?
Yeah. Give me an E. Give me an R. Give me a B.
But seriously, brass tacks this business for me. I mean, outside of just like trolling friends and coworkers, what advantage, if any, at all, is there to the PowerShell, man?
Well, if you're running a heterogeneous environment and you want to have centralized management via a single Unix server, then this is the way to go, right? Because you can have your configurations for Windows and Unix on one box, make your changes in one place, have it all nicely synced out. But PowerShell requires modules to hook into specific pieces of software.
Now, I just got to say, these two guys, if you're watching the video, they look like people who would work and dress at Microsoft. That looks like executive decisions. He's like, you wear a wacky tie, and here you're 55, but try to look like a hipster.
It's like the sports broadcasters in a can, right? They always have these two idiot-looking guys who are always, that's right, Cotton, good job, yeah. But yeah, one of the main issues with PowerShell on Linux is it's great if you want to manage your Azure services. Although if you're a Linux user, why? I guess if your company's already bought the Microsoft Kool-Aid and mixed their pitcher of it. But it requires specific modules to interface with specific pieces of software. And unless you're going to get some for Apache and Tomcat and all the various other server applications that one might want to use PowerShell to manage, you're not going to get much use out of it.
So, yeah, if somebody's Bash to play with, if you don't like them, that's all I'm taking out of it. Not messing with it.
Yeah. I mean, it has some interesting features. Desired state configuration is pretty cool. The fact that everything's an object is kind of nice because it makes text manipulation very easy. But yeah, unless you're managing multiple systems, I wouldn't, or multiple heterogeneous systems, I would not recommend using PowerShell for your management.
It's a very specific use case for you to even be able to sleep with yourself at night. Giggity. So, read a book. The Humble Bundle, The Joy of Coding. You too can learn to annoy people on Stack Exchange in 5 exciting languages, right?
Oh yes, exciting. I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm looking at one of these book titles. Erlang and the Greater Good should not be mentioned in the same sentence.
Come on, man. What did Erlang ever do to you, bruh?
It killed my sister and murdered my dog and burned my house down. No, Erlang is it's its own weird little beast I had to deal with once upon a time. But yeah, the Humble book bundles. I've been sort of wavering on my support for Humble, but their book bundles are generally pretty good. They're usually a pretty good deal. And if you want to learn how to code and you don't know how to use Stack Overflow and you prefer reading books, this might be the thing for you. You can pick this up for relatively cheap. What's the
pay what you want? Pay $1 or more basically for your top 4
for 5 books.
Yeah, Python, Linux command line, Haskell, Erlang, F#. If you want to kick into the 8, got some JavaScript, a little bit of Lisp, and
I'm sorry, it's pronounced Lisp.
GNU Lisp, and 15 for Python, and really
and R and Clojure.
All right, Clojure. All right, I'll give you that. But that's at Humble Bundle Books, and Strider just wanted to make sure that people wanted to read books, and I don't know.
I want to read books.
Digital books never. I don't know. Maybe I'm old and I need to go get my Walker, but all books of that, I would use them for reference. I mean, they would be sticky tabbed to death, and I would know, just by the age and the crud on the sticky tabs, what I needed for reference material.
It makes sense. I'm one of those people who prefers physical books as well. But if you have a Nook or a Kindle or something and you want to learn how to program while you're sitting on the bus, there are worse ways to spend your time.
Admit it, I hate physical books, but when it comes to read access, and you have things tabbed in a physical book that you constantly go to in and about on like 10 pages, I think that's a lot faster than
Yeah, but the flip side is you can't grep dead trees, which is unfortunate.
Maybe you can.
Not with that attitude, right? But
so yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, speaking of, I don't have an attitude pun for the PlayStation Portable. You go for it.
It's time for a slice of pie. We every time we see it, because pies are awesome. We're talking about Raz Pies. This is as a Raz Pi Zero shoved face first into a PSP. Go ahead.
Oh, you got to say, it's more powerful than the original PSP. That 333 megahertz single core ARM processor.
Yeah.
But
this is some slick packaging, man. I mean, I haven't checked inventory levels lately, but the Razzo was famously out of stock for months. Maybe it's back.
Because they were giving it away.
Again, wicked clean installation for this. It's 3 to 5 hours of battery life on this. The new one, Mark II, is using 2 mobile batteries in parallel. It's got some extended playtime on that. It's using the GPIO for button input, which is also kind of neat. He's several teardowns. Like I said, this is the Mark I. Mark II is also available, complete parts list. And if you have one of these laying around and you're not like, because here's the sad thing. Some people consider like that device retro gaming, and that makes Baby Flying Spaghetti Monster feel old.
Well, it's like Nirvana is considered classic rock now. It's you're a product of your time. Everything was new and shiny when you were a kid, and now it's old and retro.
That's actually a very. I mean, I really don't think it has a lot to do with age, because I feel perfectly comfortable. And I was like, all right, who here in the audience thinks Nirvana and classic rock? And if they raise their hand, it's like, cool. I don't want to talk to these people ever.
Well, I mean, we're getting to that point where Typo Negative is going to be classic rock too in a couple of years. So, yeah,
that'll never happen, child.
Pete Steele will live forever, except he won't.
Okay, so that's going to do it for the main show. We got a little bit of feedback for this week coming up. If you do want to get in touch with us, check this noise out. Head over to linuxgamecast.com. Linux Gamecast, this is Linux Weekly Daily. We're lazy. We shoved them both on one web zone to save money, because we're like MacGyver with duct tape with our Patreon cash. We're going to stretch it as far as we can. Head over there. Hit the contact button. It's going to give you little options. It's going to give you some instructions. Give me a name, email address, subject, a message. Select the show. Look at that. That's fancy. That's 2016 technology right there. Prove you're smarter than the bot. Man. I know. Fill that in. Do a little bit of maths, and we'll get back with you. If you don't want to do that, leave coming on Patreons, on the YouTubes. We even have a Facebook page. Good luck finding it. I think it's actually linked on our main web zone and maybe the YouTube page too. Who knows? But coming up first, wrong! We're wrong, because we were talking about the exploit with the Microsoft and not keys. We're not going to call them keys anymore. We apologize for that. From now, we're going to call them golden hot dogs. That just will make people more upset. But yeah, Jordan, it really wasn't keys. There was a link to Steve Gibson, which I honestly believe would implode if he was ever asked to explain something in 2 minutes.
Indeed. But they weren't, this wasn't a straight up key that you installed on your Windows RT device or whatever. This is a secure boot policy that will allow any amount of software or any sort of software to be installed, bypassing the protection that secure boot offers in the pre-boot environment. So that there was a bit of an issue with nomenclature there. Either way, I still maintain that the Windows RT users are rejoicing, because now their expensive coasters can run software.
True. Now, if you're looking at the video, when the softwares, they're doing this, they got a key. You could understand how everyone was like, wait a minute, okay, we're just going to use that for keys, at which they clearly should have said golden hot dogs, which would have made more sense.
I don't know why you'd want to eat a golden hot dog, though. That would, I mean, unless you consider gold to be the crappiest of the metals. I don't know, man.
Personally, I like taking down elitist metals, man, because they're all smug and stuff. But no, this this
is Christoph. Where's Vicky? Here's Vicky.
So that's great. It's good when you agree with us and like, hey man, I kind of like this. Even better when it's like, hey, you got something wrong. It's like, good, because we all learn something together. Yep. This is like PBS, man. This is like public access. Yep. It's frightening.
Being wrong is the first step on the road to being right.
Hey, man, that's how Linux works, man. You never stop learning. But Don had a message for us.
Yes, Don says, yeah, I used to have a junk box at the office that they pretty much let me have free run with. I had Ubuntu, cue the boos and hisses at the Ubuntu people. And I had all sorts of stuff on it. I'd run Terminator with HTOP, what was it, C Matrix, and the updates going on it. Had people take double looks at my cubicle because of it. I also agree that Canonical seems to be more focused on the desktop and server distros, and that rather than phones and TV, it's kind of sad that they hyped it and then failed to deliver on it. Yeah, Canonical's in an interesting place where they're trying to do a bunch of stuff because they don't really have a market position in the same way that your SUSEs or your Red Hats do. So they're looking, oh, we can get into consumer electronics, except no one really wants them. Oh, we can push our desktop environment, except no one really wants to use that either. Oh yeah, it's the Ubuntu kernel now. Ooh. And anyways, yeah, if you're in an office, but to your other point, if you're in an office with a bunch of people who don't know how computers work, yeah, just run top, and people will think you're a hacker. I remember I was at a party once and I pulled out my laptop and I just ran a quick update, and someone was asking if I was hacking the internet because Yum was going on my screen. I was doing things. So be an evil techno wizard.
I don't know. I remember when we moved out and we had a little flat at university. It was me, Mikkel, and Chris. And this is old, all right. Routers were too expensive. So, we'd use a switch and we'd take our towers downstairs and sit around. And Chris's girlfriend, we were playing, I think, Unreal Tournament on Linux, 4x3 CRT monitors, 3DFX powered, at least mine was. And we're just going, that's how, we had our little mini LAN party. And she walks in, and one of her hippie friends, I'm not making fun of hippies, but you know the type of hippie I'm talking about. Even if you're hippie, you're like, yeah, I know that type of hippie, just brain dead. And he's like,
Julie?
Totally, just like, whoa, what are you guys doing? I don't want to be around any. Oh, no, this is it. He just like bolts, and I was like, that's adorable.
I mean, you got to feed into their paranoia when they do that too. Be like, oh yeah, I'm hacking into the NSS database. Hi, NSA.
I just wished I had like a free Cat 5 at the time to like shake at him, like. Sss. But one thing I do want to bring up: have you ever at work had a box to play with? I never really had an office when I was doing my stint because I was being flown around everywhere. But I think at Scientific Atlanta, I had an NT box, which I still kind of miss that little effort because I don't think that thing got rebooted.
The Deck Alpha one?
Years. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you work in IT and there's like a spare computer around, you're gonna end up repurposing it anyways. So. But to your point, I think virtual machines have sort of taken the role of my screw around box because you can just spin it up, and if you break it, I revert to the last snapshot. Or use Linux containers. Yeah. You can grab the new version right now.
Seems legit, almost as legit as this show has been. Strider, you've been awfully quiet this evening, but thanks for showing up. Maybe, we'll be able to buy Pedro back, or we'll get like some new mixers or cameras or something instead of doing that. But hey, I've been Vince Stone.
I'm Jordan Svung.
I'm a piece of bread. We'll see. Actually, me and Jordan will see you Saturday along with another special guest.
Yes, he might or might not be a leprechaun or a werewolf or a wereprechaun. Who knows?
Werehorse?
In your deepest, darkest dreams, maybe.
Ladies, look at our horse. Now look back. No, look away. No, look back. Yeah, the horse is now a leprechaun.
It's a werewolf now. What?